welcome back to my channel. So today's video, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to film and I knew I have a lot of ideas. So basically my ideas really involve a lot of, I guess, restructuring my videos and wanting to truly include thorough teaching and thorough application. So a lot of you guys know that I am a working beauty advisor. I have done bridal makeup, and that I'm also here on YouTube. With that said, there's a lot of education that I can provide that's much more hands-on than just filming a tutorial and throwing it out. There's more that I can do for you than just talking about product reviews, and I really could stand to structure my videos for sure. So that being said, things that I want to focus on, I feel like there's more to products than the products themselves. It all boils down to knowing our skin types, knowing the pros and cons of application. And with all that being said, I have a lot of brush reviews up on my channel. A lot of brush companies have noticed that I like to review tools, and I try to be as thorough as I can with my tool reviews because I am a tool snob, but at the same time that I am a tool snob, I understand that there is a reason a product comes out available to you guys at a certain price point or a certain make and all that stuff. So let's talk real quick about foundation brushes. This is the #1 brush a lot of people talk about, and the reason that they talk about this brush is because there's different types of foundation. We're very specific on how our foundation lies on our skin, and we're very specific about the type of coverage we want and the lack of coverage we want, the luminosity, the texture, and all that important stuff. For your foundation brush, there are quite a few tools you could possibly be using, and #1, it's this flat brush. I've had a few of my clients say, no, that's a powder brush, and I'm not exactly sure why this commonly gets mistaken by my clientele as a powder brush, unless of course it was used for in a pinch for concealer powder application of, you know, like a powder foundation. But truthfully, this is a liquid foundation brush, and it will give you full coverage since you are patting it into the skin. This is a nice brush because it is oval-esque and will get into the contours of your face, and of course pack down quite a bit of full coverage foundation. It's probably one of my least favorite foundation brush styles, to be honest with you, although it is the most common. It's your typical painting brush foundation brush. The next one, and this is more something I gravitate to, and that is your flat top style foundation brush. I really like this because this just kind of presses the foundation into the skin. It gives it more of a airbrushed type finish. It doesn't lay it on too thick, so if you have fine lines, it gives you more of that sort of sitting on top of the skin look, which I feel is more flattering regardless of the issues you have going on at hand. I feel that a more cakey, full foundation application where somebody has fine lines, this is a little less forgiving because you don't want to push product into your problem areas. So I feel this allows it to sit on top and look a little bit more airbrushed. Now, the Sigma brush is sort of a dupe at hand for a MAC brush, but it's still a little bit more expensive than the brushes you see coming out today, available through alternative brands such as Delium Tools, e.l.f., So Best, Isabella Phantom, and all that stuff. I have one of the So Best brushes, so this is a great inexpensive alternative to Sigma. So you can get either of these shapes from either of the brands. I just personally prefer, because I'm very biased, I personally prefer this flat top. There is a third tool other than fingers and flat brushes and stiff brushes. There are the Beauty Blender sponges. This will give you the lightest weight application to foundation. It is supposed to be used slightly damp, and the reason that is because the product will, or the Beauty Blender sponge will absorb way too much product if it is completely dry. It'll just suck it all up. So that's why they recommend using it slightly damp, not soaking wet. This one is quite enlarged because I just washed it, so you can see how stained it gets. But for personal use, these sponges do last a very long time. Yes, the Beauty Blender is $20. The Real Techniques baby distant cousin is much more affordable. I just feel like the texture of the Real Technique ones, the new ones, are not nearly as nice and buoyant as the Beauty Blender sponges. So I consider the Beauty Blender sponge an investment, much like a brush. But as far as your application, I really like how the pointy little side gets up underneath the eye. It doesn't take away any like eyeliner if you like to do your eyes first, and it takes away excess like application so you don't get that heavy harsh creasing, and just overall it just makes the foundation look smooth and effortless, and you don't have to buff it. It really just helps you press it in. I feel like with these two brushes all by themselves you have to work a little bit more to get that perfect texture. So for me, the Beauty Blender is my favorite tool, but if I had to pick a brush, it would definitely be this one. And now the next brush style is powder, and this really kind of covers a wide range of brushes, to be honest with you. You have your first little short-handed kabuki, and this is your powder brush. You can bake with this, you can just press powder lightly onto the skin, you can fluff it under your eyes, and of course sweep away. You have this, which is really nice, but not as typically used for baking. But this you could definitely apply quite a few face powders with, quite a few beauty powders with, and this will give you a little bit more of a heavy-handed application. This is quite a basic. You can do a lot of things with this one. So heavier handed because the bristles are more tightly packed. This is basically the same idea as the brush I just showed you, but this brush is a little more narrow, so it'll be a little bit more precise, but once again, densely packed. And all the brushes I'm showing with you guys are synthetic, so unfortunately I don't have any natural hair alternative 101s, but I'm basically just going to talk about what these brushes do. So yes, the video is biased. And then of course we have the duo fiber brush. If you are buying from a natural hairline, this will very much be an actual duo fiber brush, where the hair here, like the pink part, will be white, and it will be natural from here to the ferrule, and then this black part will be synthetic. The synthetic will pick up a little less pigment, and it will disperse it a little bit more evenly. But more or less, if you're getting a synthetic variation of this will probably all be tack-on hair, but it will still be cut to resemble a natural hairbrush, and overall give you that very lightweight application. So you can use this for powder foundation, you can use this for dusting on powders. Some people will even pinch it down when it's drying, and it will form like a very it'll form like a temporary shape until you wash it again, and then they'll just do that to dust, to bronze, to put on blusher. But the idea of this brush is to put on a lightweight amount of color, and then these will heavily disperse that color. So these look very similar to the brushes I just showed you, but they're much more specific to products. These are all about the color cosmetics. So this is your angled brush, and this can pick up cream contour or powder contour colors, and it really is meant to just be a chisel brush or a cutting brush, if you will. This one is sort of your very kind of buttery smooth kabuki. This some people could even use for foundation if they needed a much smaller, finer brush, but you can use this to apply bronzers or contour products if you prefer to have a non-angled brush. And this one would be your duo fiber brush, which is much more finely cut than the previous one I showed you. This is from Furless. This is a high-end brush for sure. This is how a MAC one looks, more or less. So yes, with that being said, this is designed just for bronzer and blusher, unless of course you need that really tiny brush. So these are all specific to the color products. Very similar products to what we saw before, but these are more pint-sized. These are much more specific to much more finer tuned color applications, being that they're cut smaller. This is again a Furless brush, the high-end mama of synthetic brushes from Australia, so the shipping and handling definitely brings up the price point unless you live in Australia. But this is definitely another one of those bronzing brushes. Being that it's a duo fiber, it'll lay on color very lightly, so if you also feel that your heavy-handed duo fiber brushes are a good investment. if you want a more natural look, but just the same if you like a heavier look too, they give you that more airbrushed look. This would be nice as a finishing powder, a beauty powder, a highlighting powder, basically anything that you can bring in under the cheekbones, on the blushing area, or even the bronzing area. It's a little splayed to be a contour brush because that's a little specific. This one is a very kind of tight tapered brush that you can use. This is an Isabella Phantom, so this is a very inexpensive brush. You can definitely use this to cut the cheekbones, and it will give you a very smooth look. So if you're somebody who feels like that cut is a little too harsh for you, I feel you, because certain trends for me are a little too precise, a little too specific, and I feel like sometimes when they can be a little like manipulated to be more organically contoured with our body, they look better. We have your more precise angled brush. This is still butterier. I never buy harsh brushes, but this is much more butterier than your more like flat top, super chiseled angled brushes. This is from Plain Jane Beauty. It's a really fun site actually. And then this can be your 3D blush. It's where you do the X on the cheek and the X in the back of the cheek, the 3D blush guy. It's a really good 3E bronzing brush, or even a really good highlighter because it's really cut, tapered, but still super buttery. Brushes, again, I don't like anything that you like have to paint your foundation on with, so I don't have a lot of painty concealing style brushes, but I do have one. This is like your most full coverage. You can see it's still in plastic. I don't use these really, but this is your flat top concealing brush. It is your painting style brush that will just allow you to tap the concealer into the skin, press it in. This really helps if you have textured blemishes. It really helps if you have textured sun damage, because it's really difficult to cover texture with products alone. Some of that texture doesn't really take color, so this will help press it into the skin so you can kind of create your own texture. But I'm just gonna kind of go into a whole other world. There are skincare products that can definitely aid in softening your skin, but if you're not a skincare junkie, this will definitely help. I have my other personal favorites. Like I said, I'm a buttery brush kind of gal, and it has nothing to do with how they feel going on the skin. I never really take that into account. I'd rather be kind of jazzed to put on my makeup than falling asleep putting on my makeup. Nobody else touches my face but me. My eyebrows are hard to work with, and I don't really trust a lot of other makeup artists today, because it's so saturated today. The world is so saturated today with a lot of people who haven't touched faces that my eyebrows pose problems. So I've really only done my own makeup in the last couple years. But these brushes are super buttery. And what I like about this one is that it's a little angled kabuki, so it gets in right underneath the eyes and doesn't knock out any eyeliner if you're an eyes first girl. It'll also get a little bit of concealer around the lip area if you're somebody who likes to do a bold lip and needs to kind of clean it up afterwards with a touch of concealer. This will help with that if you hate that sort of concealing kind of line around the lip like I do. This is really cool. Then you have another really kind of this is both a flat top and an angular one. So this has two things. You can press the product into the skin, and you can also use it as an angular brush to wipe it away. Very similar to this one. This one is just cut much more precise on top. This of course is a inexpensive brush, and this is of course a furless brush, so that could be a reason. But sometimes when brushes are cut differently by mistake, we can definitely use them for different purposes, so it's not always a bad thing when products don't have a consistency. And then of course we have your Sigma Precision Round P82 brush, and this is like a little finger. So if you're somebody who hates kind of getting your fingers in your product and blah blah blah, you're not near a sink, you can't be near a sink when you're putting on makeup because you share the bathroom with 5 other people. We've all been there. This is a really good little like guide just to keep your fingers out of your face, and works like a finger because it's blunt and thick and round like the ball of one's finger. And it's also thicker than my finger, which I think is why I like it, because it's really like just buffs it all in really nice. And of course the only downside to these is that the warmth of your hand will not be a factor when using finger type brushes, but still a good alternative. before we leap into the remaining balance would be fingers. A lot of people say, is it wrong to use my fingers? And absolutely not. Some of your fingers are your best tools. The whole thing with using your fingers is that you don't want to be aggressive during the application. Of course, one could be aggressive with a brush too, but keep in mind, you definitely want a little bit of a pull back when it comes to touching your face. You don't want to tug on your eyes, anything like that. Your weakest fingers would be your last three, because these two have, well, this one definitely has a pulse. I don't know if this one has a pulse, but it is the strongest, most flexible finger. So you want to use the other three, which are your weakest fingers, to apply anything to blend out on your face. You can even do a little bit of like a eyeshadow. You can even round it out in the crease of your finger. The warmth of your finger will take away the rough edges. So if you're somebody who's like, I know a lot of my clients are actually on fixed incomes, and so when they ask me, can I use my fingers? The answer is of course, yeah. Based on fingers, and we even went to the whole general idea of going through your eye socket. We're going to go through your little flat stiff shading brush, and these are actually used to pack the color pigment all over the shape of your lid. That's their initial purpose. You have a really tiny fine one that can go really well into the inner tear duct, all over the lid if you have a really tiny eyelid. You have your basic, this is a furless. This is a 6+. 6+ is really great. They have so many fun brush styles. If you can't decide if you want Kit A, Kit B, Kit C, 6+ is super affordable and probably my favorite, most affordable brushes on the market. Furless, once again, really high end, but this brush style is so perfect. It's so tiny and so cute and works so beautifully. And then of course you have your angle brush, which can also be used for packing color all over the lid, but also just to shape in the corners. So this is definitely considered a good beginning brush if you're somebody who's getting used to blending out pigments and you feel your work can be a bit patchy. Of course, it's also good for pros, but of course, if you're used to using the flat stiff shader brushes, you can also use the edges of these to chisel out any. Then of course we have the fluffy blending brush, and this brush will for sure blend out the crease. It is also a much lighter hand brush than the packing brush if you're somebody who is heavy-handed, new to makeup. I know a lot of people who say they're new to makeup hate this style of brush, but it really gets into the contour of the eye socket really perfectly. It can also be used to buff highlighter on the cheek. These are two options. Once again, Furless is your high-end mama, and 6+ is your affordable option. This one, of course, is cut a little bit more blunt, and this one is pretty much just the way it's supposed to be very honest with you. But you could definitely use either one. This one will be a little bit more stiff. Even e.l.f. has more finely cut brushes than this guy. But if you're looking to buy a whole case and kind of mess around, or to get your first kit, this is a really good. And we don't talk smudging brushes enough here on YouTube, but smudging brushes have multiple reasons of their existence. We see smudging brushes being used quite typically for eyeshadow, eyeliner. Who said that, because that was the best way to talk about eyeshadows being smudged out, because we always say, oh, I'm going to smoke out my lower lash line. And while that's true, because there's multiple ways to smoke out your lower lash line, whoever said my eyeshadow eyeliner, I was like, yes, yes. Because there's a couple reasons I like smudging out my eyeliner. My cream eyeliners, the pencils, I like smudging those out because those will typically drag water out or move as the day goes on, and I feel like it's awesome to be completely in control of our makeup at all times. And one of the reasons, the best ways to do that is to smudge it out ourselves using the warmth of our finger to break down the product. If you're somebody who's a germaphobe and doesn't like to touch your eyes, whether your hands are clean or not, we have our smudger brushes, which can, of course, buff out that cream product. Make it move from the waterline to the lower lash line in a heartbeat. Because nothing is worse than that kind of harsh line of demarcation. I hate that. It is my least favorite look. And of course we can still get that harsh line of demarcation with eyeshadow, eyeliner as well. And that's why I like brushes like this one that closely resemble a buffing brush or even a fluffy blending brush, but are slightly more tapered. This one is from Sonia Kashuk. But you also have one that resembles an eyeshadow blending brush, but it's cut much shorter and much more fine. And of course, this is also really nice if you need to keep the shadow placement or the eyeliner placement really nice, right, and tight. This is your pencil brush. It is my least favorite, but it serves a purpose. And the reason it's my personal least favorite, maybe it's because of my eye shape, but I feel like it's a little bit more hard. So we have your eyeliner brush. I think everybody needs these for two reasons. It could serve as a brow brush. It could serve as a winged liner, whether you're dealing with gels, with liquids, with shadows even, and gives you a really nice kind of soft look. And you can of course work it like a pencil. Then you have this kind of little guy. He's also considered a smudge brush, but I typically, if I don't like the way my brows look, I can kind of smooth it out with this guy. You can also use this as a lip liner. It's a really good kind of eyelining or lip lining kind of smudging. My most underused tool, to the extent that I don't have one, would be the mascara wand, a clean mascara wand. You could buy this as a brush style, and I'm sure I've gotten some in the past in my kits, but I currently don't really keep track of them. I should, because I feel like it really can even buff through and smooth out gel brows so they don't look too harsh. It can smooth out brow pencils that are too creamy so that they lay flat to the skin and don't move. And then of course some people also like them to kind of comb out their eyelashes one last time if they have a really good mascara, but of course drying off the mascara wand in a tissue before applying it will also help with that. I personally don't have one laying around, but I should. I'll be getting some actually in the near future because that's actually one of my new favorite tools. So I need to head to Sally's Beauty and get myself a disposable because I hate looking at dirty mascara wands. The next one and the last one is one of my personal favorites for a very good reason. You can buy all sorts of big mamas that look just like this. And now I like this one because it gives you that more rounded, smooth, buttery application that we know I love. And it picks up a lot of product. That could be a good or a bad thing when you're dealing with a small surface. This is really inexpensive. This is from my brush set, which a lot of people have commented on that video saying, oh, she was paid for that review. First off, I was never paid for that review, but I said that that brush set was really good for beginners, and it's a really good first timers brush set to kind of get your feet wet and play with brushes. That was I guess my way of saying, like, it's not the be all end all when you know, and it's like a $15.99 brush set, so you kind of get what you paid for. It's super affordable. It's not MAC brushes. So, but yeah, if you have to get one for my brush set, it would be big fan. And so the next one I have, and this one's a little less readily available, and it is from Artnet, and it is the 118, and this is the most precise fantail. You can use this to blend out blush. I haven't done that in a while, and honestly I can't even think of how I would have done this, but you could probably do like a good 3D blush effect. It might be a bit stripey, but I like it more for highlighting. And now with that being said, some highlighters can look a bit stripey if you kind of whisk your hand the wrong way with this one, and this is just good to kind of butter it out a little bit. So very gently used. And these Fantail brushes don't get a lot of love, but they also don't get a lot of harsh use. This brush will never get a lot of harsh use because I'm not using it all over my face every single day, so it's going to be very difficult to break it down. And so yeah. Alright, so I'll see you guys in the next video. I really hope you learned something today in Brush 101. I'm sorry if I rambled a bit. I feel like that's kind of how we kind of learn a little bit and grow a little bit and have kind of a girlfriend moment here on YouTube. But also I hope that you took away something, really took away something and learned something about brushes, despite the biases, despite the fact that they're cruelty-free in this video. I hope if you saw a new brush that you haven't tried that you're going to try it out, and I hope that we're clear when I talk about things in reviews. Moving forward, I just wanted to make it very clear that I don't get paid to sell any brushes here online. I've received a lot of tools for free to review. I've never been asked to give a glowing review of brushes. To be very honest, I've never done a scripted brush review, but I love brushes. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching this one.